People have said that it gives Gilmore Girl vibes. Also a very direct and to the point person. I think that's what rubs people the wrong way. I'm so intrigued to know. Easy 5 stars, like the easiest 5 stars I've ever given. Okay, so I am currently 44% into If It Makes You Happy by Olivia. We have our female main character, Michelle. She was recently divorced and her mom passed away. Her mom ran this little bed and breakfast in her small town where she left it to Michelle's sister, Sarah. She ended up having to finish a semester of university, so that only left Michelle to take over the bed and breakfast. She takes time off her job, comes to this small town to start running the bed and breakfast, but the only thing is that she's not a very warm and welcoming person in terms of she's just more closed off and reserved, so she's not giving the warm, cozy vibes that her mom was giving at the bed and breakfast. So there's a little bit of a shift of energy with people coming in and out of there. And while she's there, she also meets this single dad who also runs a bakery in town, and he actually would help her mom at the inn and just delivering baked goods and things like that. He kind of knew the operations of it. And so he asks if she wants help. She says no. And so we're getting this whole grumpy sunshine trope where she's the grumpy one and he's sunshine. So I haven't seen that done in a book yet. I don't even know if I've read many grumpy sunshine tropes. Usually it's typically the guy who's grumpy and the girl who's sunshine. People have said that it gives Gilmore Girl vibes where she is Luke and he is Lorelai. So I'm not getting that fully right now, but there is that grumpy sunshine within the book. And yeah, he's just very open and caring, and he's a single dad. And yeah, the story is kind of taking off from there. I will say though that the romance in the book, I feel like we just jumped into a little bit too soon. I feel like there was not really much tension or banter or build up to it. I love a slow burn. And so if I'm getting any kind of jumping into a relationship or romance or anything like that before the 50% mark, it kind of turns me off a little bit, but I'm not fully turned off of it. I'm enjoying the story. It's giving the coziest fall vibes for sure. It's a perfect book to pick up at fall time if you just wanted a quick little something to read. But the romance for me, I think it started off a little quick, and I feel like it just kind of jumped into everything a little bit quick. I just feel like the romance was feeling a little bit rushed and not developed enough for me to believe it or buy into it right now. So we'll see how it goes and how it progresses. I feel like right now I'm not fully buying into the romance side of it, but I am enjoying the story overall so far, and just seeing how she's going to continue to progress and grow throughout the story, going through losing her mom and having to run the inn and having to take time off of her big city job and coming to a small town. She's going through a lot. So the grumpy part makes total sense. There's nothing wrong with her acting the way that she's acting right now. She's got every right and reason to do so because she's gone through quite a bit in the last little bit. But I'm interested to see more about her sister too. I'm hoping we get to meet her a little bit in the book and see that dynamic and how she's holding up with everything, as well as her dad. But so far, yeah, it's just been a little bit slow now, I think, at this point. I'm waiting for something to pick up or something to help the plot move along. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far. I don't have much else to say right now. I'm going to try to finish it today, but we'll see how it goes. Getting our main character's background on why she was with her ex-husband just gives her so much depth, gives her character so much more depth, and we're getting to see a little bit more about why she made the decision to be with someone, because a little snippet we got of him at the beginning, he just didn't seem like a nice person. So getting to understand why she was with him and her reasonings behind it also gives us a little bit of insight into her family dynamics with her mom and her sister. And it's just been interesting to get that part, because I always love a book that can give me good character depth. I really want to get to know the characters and why they do the things that they do and why they are the way that they are. I mean, you have her who's this really closed off person versus the main male character in the book who's very bubbly, but also just like a little bit more of like a light in her life, but she's closed off for a reason, the way that she is behaving and the way that she's acting, and it's all has justification. She's just a little bit more reserved, and we're starting to get a little bit more of her family history. I think our male main character is going to help her to understand herself a little bit more and why she is the way that she is. She talked a little bit how when she was younger and certain things between her and her sister, and maybe that's the reason why her sister is more outgoing and why she's a little more reserved. And I don't want to spoil anything, so so I'm not giving away too much, but everyone in this town had a really good relationship with her mom and was really close to her and would just say nothing but good things about her mom. Everyone loved her mom in the town, but with Michelle, she's a little more closed off and reserved, and so people are a little bit more skeptical. They're like, why isn't she like her mom? I think that there might be some comparison in that capacity, not that anyone said anything, but I think just getting to see why her relationship with her mom and hearing all these stories from the town people about her mom and just flashing back to her memories with her mom, they just weren't the same or weren't as positive. So getting that background and that backstory has been really, really interesting. I'm excited that we're seeing a little more depth to her character. I think it's going to make me really connect to her a little bit more and just understand her side of things more. And that's all you can ask for from a book, is just being able to really understand the characters and not just throwing in character traits or things about a character just for the heck of it and having like, you know, a grumpy character, but like there's actually a backstory, there's actually depth, and there's actually family history as to why she is so closed off. And I'm so excited to continue learning about that and exploring that. Curious if we're going to get any of that with our mailman character. We know bits and pieces about his life and why he is a single dad, but I feel like even with him, we're not getting too much of that. Yeah, I'm just really enjoying that we're getting depth from her and we're getting to know her a little bit more on a deeper level. I think that that's so important with a main character. So I am starting to really, really enjoy the book. So my updates right now, I'm still about around the 50% mark now. So I keep reading and we'll see how far I get tonight. I also forgot to mention that Michelle is also a very direct and to the point person. I think that's what rubs people the wrong way, is that she's very much like, here's a problem, here's a solution, okay, let's move on. Whereas her mom was very much so more involved in the townspeople life, or people who visited the bread and breakfast. She would, you know, sit down with them for breakfast. She would have conversations, learn about them and chat with them, and it made it this homey feeling place. Whereas with Michelle, she's really struggling to find that balance and just be able to open up. And she's a little bit shocked that her mom was that way, just because growing up, that was not the way that her mom was with her. She had a very different experience with her mom and in her family and her family dynamic than the rest of the people her mom has been around, townspeople, people who visited the bed and breakfast and all of that. And so she's very just taken aback a little bit by the fact that all these people have these incredible stories of her mom and she doesn't have all those stories to connect to or to relate to. And so I just wanted to bring up that point because I thought that was important to talk about too, is just that her family is so different. I'm so intrigued to know more about the family dynamic between her and her mom, and also her sister. I'm curious about that a little bit, but more so her and her mom. And I feel like the dad's barely in the story, so I wonder if we're gonna get him back at all. But I'm gonna get back to reading and I'll update in a little bit. I've been away for a little bit. I've been traveling for about 2 months and I'm finally back home. I'm finally back into a routine. I was visiting family and then I had a work trip that I was on. And I just feel like I haven't talked too much about the books that I was reading back in September. Now, I didn't read too many books. I think I might have finished 2 books in September. I just haven't talked about the books that I read. So we're going to talk about If It Makes You Happy by Olivia. I enjoyed the book, but it wasn't my favorite. I got that book as an ARC, so I got to read it a little bit ago and then I finished it up right before it came out in September. I think I'm settling on a 3.5 star rating for that book just because I enjoyed the romance in the book, but I found that they kind of got into it a little too quick. It was really fast paced. It almost felt a little bit rushed to me. I feel like typically when you like someone or when you meet someone for the first time, yes, you can have that physical attraction to them and you could have a crush on them because of that. Until you know someone internally, their personality, it's a little bit harder to believe that the characters in the book liked each other to that extent that quickly. So that was just a little bit unbelievable to me. So I think that's what kind of made me a little bit hesitant to rate it anything higher, is just I didn't believe how the romance started. I did by the end of it really enjoy it and really like the way that it was going. Certain parts were a little bit cheesy. What I did like about the book was that it's a book where, yes, it's set in the fall and it's fall themed, but the fall isn't in your face. So if you're someone who's looking for seasonal reads during the fall time, this will be good for you to pick up if you're still looking to be set in the fall mindset. I would recommend it in the fall time. I just lost all the audio from the clip that I just filmed and I knew that was going to happen. I knew my mic was dying, but I was like, no, it's going to hold on until I'm done this. So all of that audio is gone. So let me just try to recap what I said. The second book that I finished in September was Reckless Roses by Sarah A. Bailey. Now that's the third book in her Pacific Shores series. The first one is Heathen and Honeysuckle, where we follow Darby and Leo and their love story. And then in the second book, we're following Darby's sister and Leo's brother, and that one's called Wicked and Wildflower. But the third book that I read was Reckless Roses, and that one is a story that I've been waiting for so long. It's Elena and August's story from the group. This story has some of the best found family. I love it so much, and I feel so connected to the characters. I've been waiting for their story. Now, this is a novella, and so their actual story comes in the next book, but we get a little glimpse of their past up until the point that we're at in the story that the last book left off in, but it was such a good book. Easy 5 stars, like the easiest 5 stars I've ever given. One thing that Sarah A. Bailey does really well is create really real, authentic characters. I feel like in this book especially, her writing just keeps getting better and better throughout the series, but this book, the characters felt so authentic and so real, and there's so much of their experiences that are so true to our experiences as people in the world, and I feel like they just feel like real characters in the world. There's no world where these people aren't real. Things that they've gone through and everything that they go through in this book, it's just so heartbreaking that the next book is going to be even more heartbreaking. There's no world where the next book isn't going to be 6 stars, because this one was 5 stars easily, and I'm so connected to their story and who they are as people. There's a lot that went on in the previous book and towards the end of it, and so this book we kind of knew a little bit what was going to happen. So leading up to that point, you know what's going to happen, but it still hits you just as hard. So leaving off where we left off in this story with what happened, seeing the repercussions of everything, I'm so interested and intrigued to figure out where it's going to go from here, because now they have to deal with everything that happened from the end of this book and the next part of the story, which is all new territory. Like, this book kind of followed us a little bit from the first book and the second book and these characters' perspectives and their timeline. Leading up to the end of it is where we kind of left off in the other book. It's going to be interesting to see where the story goes and how she takes it from here. Now, the next book, Vice and Violet, is the last book in the series. I'm really going to miss this series. I think it was a really great series, and like I said, each book just got better and better and better. Her writing has just improved so much, and I feel like Reckless Roses was such a different kind of story. It was a little bit darker and heavier, but it was so true to their experience, and she writes characters so well. They're all such different people with such different interests and likes and the way that they interact with one another, and it can be so easy sometimes to write the same character over and over again, but she makes all these characters stand out in such different ways. They're so uniquely flawed. That's what makes them very special and important, and that's what makes everyone able to connect to a different one of these characters differently, because they all have these flawed backgrounds. I feel like you could connect to at least one of the characters in her books, which makes it so special. But her books are so good, and I highly recommend that if you haven't read the series, you should definitely pick it up. Heathen and Honeysuckle, it's a surfer romance, and I've never read anything about surfers. I went surfing once, I wiped out, and I was like, yeah, never again. I've never read a book about surfers or anything like that, but I really enjoyed it. I think it was a perfect read. When I read that, it was initially about the springtime, so it's kind of the perfect time to pick it up. Reckless Roses was so good. I started it here, and then I went on a work trip and ended up finishing it on the plane ride there. I just couldn't stop reading it. It was one of those books where I just kept going and going, and I couldn't stop, and I didn't want to stop. Easily 5 stars. There's no doubt in my mind the next one's just going to be 6 stars, and like I said, it's so nice when a series, like each book just keeps getting better and better and better, because you know you're going to continue to feel more connected to these characters. Now, if you do read this series, they are interconnected standalone, but I would highly recommend reading it in order, just because there's certain things that happen that will get spoiled if you don't read it in order, but it also just gives you a chance to get connected to the characters and get to know the characters a little bit more before you get into this book. And I think the reason why Reckless Roses hit me so hard was because I knew the characters from the previous books, and they're a little bit mysterious and you didn't know too much about them. Because you knew them and because you had a little backstory on them, it just hit that much harder reading it in the order that you're supposed to read it in. Now, I have been following Sarah A. Bailey for a really long time. I read Heathen and Honeysuckle as an arc initially. I got to be on her arc team, and ever since then I've been on her arc team, so I've been able to read all these books. And she published the first 2 as an indie publisher, and then she got picked up from a traditional publisher. So these books are available at a lot more places now, so they're probably a little bit more accessible. She's so authentic in her writing, and it just feels so refreshing in this space, and I feel like that is the book. Heathen and Honeysuckle is the book that kind of got me back into romance reading. I have always been a fantasy reader my entire life, and I've always loved fantasy. It's been my favorite genre, it still is, and I never thought that I would enjoy romance. I think the first kind of romance that I picked up was Archer's Voice when I got back into reading it. I did not like that book at all. I gave it 2 stars. Like, it just wasn't for me. It was so slow, and it just felt repetitive, and like nothing was really happening until the very end, and I remember just like not liking it at all, so I didn't pick up another romance for a bit. I feel like with Heathen and Honeysuckle, that was the first romance I read in a while, and it kind of just made me realize there are romances out there that have a little bit more depth. Like, yeah, it's okay if you want a fluffy romance, something just to kind of, you know, read on the side or just have a good time with, but I feel like I'm always looking for a little more depth in my romance reads, and I feel like that one gave me a little bit more of that. That is the book that kind of got me back into romance reading, so I just feel very connected to this series for a couple of reasons. You know, one, I got to be in her arc team, which was great. It was one of my, I think it was the first arc that I ever received too. Also, just the way that she writes is so uniquely her, and like her characters are so unique to themselves. Anyways, I could talk about this series all day long. I love this series so much, but I'm gonna stop here. I have not had a 5-star read in a really long time, so I'm just happy that I got that with this book. I wanted to jump into the next one right away, but I have another arc that I need to finish before the end of this week, so I started picking that up and just haven't had much time to read since then, but that's kind of what's been going on. I have no idea what I filmed for this video at all, so if you made it to the end of this chaotic video, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.